So meaningful also for them, you know, for the chimps. Maybe they'll be able to get to see it someday, huh?
Maybe.
You know?
We
Wouldn't that be nice?
We hope they will be.
Especially for Kanzi to see it.
Yeah.
Maybe you should explain.
Yeah, she was older than me, so I think I was 11 and she'd come get me and take me to Oklahoma, or Dad might drive me down there. And she would get chimps out in her car and take them for rides. And she had them out around me. I didn't know they were supposedly so dangerous. And so I was around apes through her at 11. And I also remember going out to see Washa on a boat. Washa was on a boat with Roger.
So you were 11 when you first met the chimps?
Yeah, I first met, yeah. So that made me more interested later when she asked me if I wanted to work with chimpanzees up at Yerkes. So I was already interested.
Were you
Yeah,
in
my
charge of-
interview consisted basically of her just putting me in the cage with Sherman and Austin, Matata, and local Lehman, shutting the door and leaving, and then came back. Later on, about an hour later, I was still alive and doing well, so.
So right in with them.
Yeah, she just put me right in with him and shut the door and left.
And
So that was, I guess, a test. I don't know what it was. See if I got along with them all right, or if I wanted to stay there. That's how I first met them.
and what was
So-
your impression there? I mean, being locked in the
Cage.
in the cage with them.
I didn't know that there was anything different about that, or I mean, I thought, oh well, she's leaving me in here for now. So I remember hugging Sherman and Austin, and I saw Matata and local Lehman always stayed out in the play yard, but she would come in. She didn't have any teeth. She was so old, and she was very scared. And she'd come up to the top of the poles in the play yard and stay there and never come down. So sometimes she did come in. A couple of times she got in a fight with Sue, which Sue didn't seem to mind fighting with her. I did. Then she would bite Sue over and over again. But she didn't have any teeth, so it didn't matter so much. Yeah, she was with the real old ways, and I guess they caught her because she was so old and took her, and Matata was younger, and they thought she was in a juvenile, I think. But she had a full swelling when I started to work with her, so maybe when Sue saw her earlier, she didn't. But she did have a full swelling when I started to work with her. So she was probably adult, or getting close to it. They wanted me to artificially inseminate her, so they'd get sperm, and then I was supposed to insert it into her swelling. Well, she never got pregnant from that. They wanted me to get her pregnant, but she didn't get pregnant until they brought the other bonobos down there, Basandro and Laura, and the other ones in the group. I don't know if Laura was there because they had her off in the trailer. My memory's kind of vague, but she was by herself in a trailer, and she ended up with herpes somehow. I don't know how, but when she went back in with the group, she gave it to everyone, including Sherman and Austin. So everyone had herpes after that. I did go in with the whole group. There's Basandro, and they caught some of the younger chimps down there and then the real old chimps, but I did go in with the whole group. And Basandro was more kind of like you're going out on a date or something like that. He was very nice.
How was
He's
he
just
nice?
a nice male, I thought. I mean, he was nice to me. I interacted with him and did stuff with him. So I thought he was nice until he bit Kanzi, but up until that time. There's stuff going on inside the cage of who's in charge and outside the cage. And so this is a lesson I needed to learn. When Basandro was inside the cage with others, he felt like he should be in charge, at least when others weren't around. But when the females are there, I went in with the rest of the group. There's Laurent too, and Laura. So I went in with the whole group at one point at Yerkes because they were all together. So I went in with the whole group.
These were the bonobos,
The
or were
wild ones. Yeah, the ones taken from the wild. Back when they didn't know that there was a difference between chimpanzees and bonobos, and I used to argue with coworkers about whether there was a difference. Because to me, there's a huge difference. It's like their focus and everything. There's a big difference.
Were they learning the lexigrams with you?
They were learning the lexicograms. There was dispensers going on when I first came in. I remember there'd be like one here and one there, and they would say like orange or pecan, and I had to keep them full of banana, and they would say it at the keyboard and come get the piece of food. I had to spend a lot of time filling dispensers up, and I always hated it. That was one way they were trying to teach them, is that they would, like Matata would say banana at the keyboard, and the dispenser would turn, then the banana would come out. You could say M&M, and M&M would come out, or peanut, and peanut would come out. So for each food, they said the piece of food would fall out in the thing. And when we moved to Georgia State University, and I had switched to Matata and Kanzi, Matata had a great big huge keyboard, which she would say on these dispensers what she wanted, but if anything went wrong with the computer keyboard, it was my fault. I had done it, and I deserved to be bitten. So anytime I broke down, it wasn't the computer's fault, it was my fault. So that was always hard for me. I appreciated Panbanisha a whole lot by the time she was born, because she didn't do anything violent to me, and I'd had a lot of... Well, Sherman and Austin, they played almost with me like I was a football player. So I didn't like that so much. But I had to... It was almost like going to a football game every day. And they didn't... I don't know. Austin was a rocker. Like this. I guess because I don't know how long he'd been in the nursery, but he'd go like this. And he had have allergy attacks and completely lose his mind when he did. And Sue would still go in with him, but I sure really want to, when he was just, seemed like crazy to me, like out of it, screaming. And in the end, when he had a heart attack and died, and they did a neocropsy on his brain, he only had half a brain. So I don't know how he did all the stuff he was doing, but he was very good with the joystick, and he was really good at a lot of tasks, but he didn't have much of a brain apparently. A third of it. I mean, their brain's a third the size, so he had half of that. And he learned to do all the precise things that he did. Pretty amazing. I don't think you need your whole brain. I think it's the way it's wired up. And what it's supposed to, but Austin and Sherman never really understood English, and I kind of felt like they did. Sue did a test, show how they didn't understand English, so they would understand lexicograms, but they didn't always understand all the English. So with them, I was mainly working on their mood. Like I would use my voice and my mood and my voice to control them, but not, and then talking lexicograms. So, and of course I was around them all the time, so, if you think that I controlled them with food, I did not. and Sue would come in and do experiments with them and use more food, but I had to do a lot of stuff without food. So for me, it's more important to be able to say on the keyboard, we can go somewhere, we can do something later, or promise things to them. But I did, I would stay with the chimp while Sue was in the other room working with him, so I didn't have food. And it seemed like food got in the way of anything I did with them. Like if I was trying to help them learn a word, they would focus on the food instead of like what I was doing. If there's especially action words, it's better to just do it and talk about it, like tickle or bite or chase or whatever. I would try to grab or whatever. I try to separate them out, and then talk about each word. It seemed to me that if I had a bowl of food, they would just look at the food and want to eat the food, and they wouldn't focus on what I was saying. So when I didn't have any food, they did focus more on what I was saying. So I could say at the keyboard, like different action stuff, and not just food, but different words like bite. Austin could sign bite, and he would do that before he was going to bite somebody and freak them out. But and after somebody got bitten, or when Royce got bitten, she came to the window and her hand was all bad, and you jump, and Austin's like, I'm going, okay. I used to really interact with Sherman and Austin. They were so much stronger than me. When they're 8 times stronger than you, it's impossible to do anything. So that the best time to learn is at the early ages of 0 to 2, and if they start to bite you or something, it's not very nice. But not to hit them. I learned through the age that it's just very bad to hit. I'm very against violence at this point because of them. Like if you hit an ape that's going to be much stronger than you, then what are they going to learn? It's okay to hit if you're bigger and more powerful. It's okay to hit you. And they're so much stronger they can kill you in 1 second. So I would focus on not getting bitten. So I was very dependent on the keyboard, where other people probably weren't so much dependent on it, because they could tell me what they wanted, and then I could do it for them later on. Maybe not right then, but I could do it. So they could tell me what they wanted, and we could talk about it, and hopefully get to do it. And it really made a difference. I know food's important, but it's not everything. I mean, it's very boring when there's just a cage and there's nothing to do in it but eat food. I mean, if you can go outdoors and there's trees and there's all kinds of different things happening and things happen that you don't expect, and that's a lot more exciting than a cage with nothing in it but some food somebody's going to give them. I mean, what are they going to learn from that? And you can go outdoors and just be normal and do all kinds of stuff. Well, Matata would look at pictures a long time, and I always wondered why. It's like there's something different about her. So she looked at them real intently too. I thought she was very different to me. And she knew just how to bite you just right, not to scare you, but not really hurt you. I mean, she controlled her biting. I don't know if the others had as much experience fighting, or she had experience fighting, or whatever, but she was very deliberate when, she just put her teeth on me slightly, and I would know that I was supposed to do what she said. But yeah, I learned a lot from Matata because she was from the Congo, and she taught us what to do.
What do you know?
Well, she taught us with her vocalizations, and she taught us the rules. Well, first when I first started going with her, she'd jump right on me and do the bonobo hello with her swelling, but that kind of dropped out pretty quickly because I didn't really respond. But that's the way they say hello. The females would Gigi row.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I didn't do that at all because I was human.
What is that?
But I would not object to it. Like if somebody came over and I would not say, "Hey, get away from me," This is sex or whatever. To me it was more like a hug, like I'm hugging you, hello, saying hello. And it was with Matata, she stole Kanzi, so she took Kanzi. Kanzi wasn't her real son, but she never had sex with him. I mean, she would put him up to her and Gigi rub, but she never had sex with him or Maisha or any of her true sons. But other males, she would insert the penis into her swelling, but she never did with her sons, ever. And Kanzi wasn't genetically related to her in that way, so because she was stolen. She wanted more babies.
So what did she teach you that others couldn't teach you?
Well, she minded Sue better because she didn't go over the fence with Sue as much. But if we were out in the forest and there were muscadines or something, Matata could come from one direction, eat the muscadines, and then I was completely lost, and she could come back and come completely from a different direction to the muscadines to eat the muscadines.
Mm-hmm.
So, can people do that?
Mm-hmm.
And then I went out with Panbanisha. I went out in Iowa once, and I remember being out in the woods, and I was totally lost. I didn't know where I was. I got lost. And she took me back, and when she was going back, she was going by each branch and stick and everything that we had gone before. Exactly the same way back. She remembered everything visually going back all the way. And I was lost. I mean, when I'm lost out in the woods and they can come do this kind of thing, I'm kind of, their skills are superior, I'll just put it that way. And Panbanisha had superior skills, and so did Matata. With the woods, visually, and probably could hear better too. They were stronger. So there are things that they were better at than me. So I mean, people kind of looked down at them like they were God or something, but it was the opposite for me. They were, I was smarter in some ways, in other ways I wasn't. So that's the way I felt, that there was a lot to learn from them. So when Heather was born, I did exactly with her what I had done with Panbanisha. So it's pretty much exactly the same. There wasn't any difference, except Heather was learning faster. And with Pansy too, when she didn't have as many problems because we got her when she was younger, a baby. So, but I still feel like if I wasn't with her every day, that she might not be as nice. So she was an angel when I could be with her every day. But when she got up to about 3 years old, I no longer wanted, because Sue was constantly switching the groups, and I just kind of got to the point where I just, like, Pansy would get really upset when every day I'd have to see her and she'd be fine, but with, like, Panbanisha, I think I could be gone a year and walk back in. But with Pansy, I'd have to reestablish it every time, so I didn't want to do that. And usually I have one person with one ape and one with another, and I might be controlling both. But the other person didn't know that. No, but what?
No, I was wondering if you were equally involved in raising Panbanisha and Pansy, or did you spend this same kind of time with both of them? Pansy?
Yeah. It was pretty equal.
The idea
until Pansy
that
left at 4 years old. The idea was to raise them together and have them doing exactly the same things together at the same time, so that we could see the differences between them. So they were pretty much identically raised. The main problem was Panbanisha was born first to Matata. The idea was she would take Pansy too, but Panbanisha, who was only a month at the time, would push Pansy off Matata's other nipple. And Matata loved babies. She was crazy about babies. She would take care of any baby, but Panbanisha didn't like it. So we ended up taking Panbanisha out with Pansy, and then we would go and see Matata. So she was still integrated in everything, but she wasn't the one kind of in charge of both of them at that point. There was different people going in with them, because I couldn't be there all the time. But some people would go in with the two of them. Everything had to be the same. And then when Heather was born, I did everything the same with her. But with Panbanisha and Pansy, I could actually put little cubes up on the counter and tell them to sit in the cubes, and I'd have bin of playthings for each one of them, and they would play with those things while I cleaned up. So I'd clean up like the whole place. It might take me an hour, but they would sit in their cubes while I did it together on the cabinet and play with their things. That was important to me because I could clean and do it. Cleaning can be a problem, and like, they know you're trying to clean. Sitting was a good form of discipline or whatever. Whenever something would go wrong, I didn't really punish them. I would just sit them in a chair and maybe pay extra attention to them and play with different things and talk about different toys that they had. And it wasn't really a punishment. It was more like a getting calmed down by sitting in a chair, and that really helped. That was the way I disciplined them, was by sitting in a chair and playing with toys. I don't think somebody could really hurt them by spanking them or whatever, but and so, and some people spank and they're just angry at their kids and they want their kids to mind, and that's kind of a little bit different than the ones that really hurt their kids when they're spanking them or really intent to hurt them. Because I'm not so sure if the parents who are just doing it out of discipline really want to hurt them or strike them so hard that they end up in the hospital or something like that. Yeah, I think if you have a child, you don't want them to learn to hit. You want them to learn to talk their way out of it. And I know that's not always possible in our society. Humans do terrible things. Terrible, violent things. And who's to say people think they're worse or they think they hurt somebody, but it's not always that way. I mean, with Panbanisha, I had her around at least 300 people without her getting hurt, without her hurting anybody. Not her getting hurt. She did not hurt anybody because I didn't want her to. I had a rule that she wasn't supposed to hurt anybody. But with other people, she might do that. And in the A Society, they would go ahead and they might hurt each other. So she had to live in there too. But she pretty much controlled, I think she controlled the group when we were in Des Moines, and she did it with nonviolence. She didn't hurt anybody. And yes, it wasn't really actually planned to do this, and it was done really without telling everybody about it, because people would not have thought it was okay, I guess. But I couldn't afford childcare. I didn't make enough money. You know, childcare was very high, and to me it would just seem natural to have her there. I mean, Panbanisha was her big sister. She helped me out. I mainly just had her around Panbanisha, although she was very good friends with Kanzi, and at 2.5 could tell him what to do, and that made other people very angry and jealous. It was, they didn't like it that Heather could tell them what to do. They wanted her around.
When did Heather and Panbanisha first meet?
Heather and Panbanisha? Well, I can't remember when I started bringing Heather, but I know she's sleeping through the night at 6 weeks. And then Janine Murphy was watching her a lot, like half a day. And Janine Murphy worked with the apes for 10 years. So that made it even more similar. Like, Janine would watch her half the day, and she had all this ape experience and raised 7 kids. Or she had 8 kids. And she also raised the bonobos. She raised Kanzi. So Heather got to be in that environment half the day, and then with the Panbanisha, the other part. And then I would take her down to see Kanzi and let her sit and tell Kanzi what to do and get food or stuff like that. But it was supposed to be not done or whatever, so I don't think there might be one picture or two. I think she's on a videotape, on a couple of videotapes with Sue. Sue's in there, and Pam. I think Pam might be, and the Japanese photographers. And she's walking around with Heather, and Panbanisha's in it too. I don't think, she didn't really know that they were apes till, well, you can ask her. I might have been 7 or 8, but Panbanisha was always smarter than, so she didn't see things that way until school and everything, that she knew they were different. And then on NHK, there's a tape where both the bonobos and her are asked to separate the humans and apes in one pile and the animals in another pile, and given a stack of pictures. And the apes all put the humans and the apes together, whether chimpanzee or bonobo in one pile, and the animals in another. And Heather was asked to do the same thing, and it's on tape, and she does exactly the same thing, and she put herself with the humans and the apes and the animals over here, which I don't think there's any really that much difference between them. I used to play this game with Panbanisha, like she'd be sitting, I'd say, well, put your hand over so-and-so's eyes, so she'd go behind them and put her hand over their eyes, and I'd go, is that a human or an ape? And people couldn't tell. They couldn't tell whether it's Panbanisha or a person. They couldn't tell whether it's Panbanisha or me. Is it, just the big part of the hand. The way the hands were made, it was really hard for them to do anything. They couldn't do that. And it was very clumsy, probably like an older person. Like my mom couldn't knit at the end or anything like that. She couldn't really move stuff. And I used to do shape sorting with Pansy and Panbanisha. Pansy had put it in her mouth and then put it in. Sherman and Austin were also pretty good at this. And Panbanisha had a really hard time getting the shapes right. It'd be very difficult. And then I tried it on the computer screen, and blam, the first time she just put the shapes right in each spot. And then I thought, well, there's something going on here between the head and the hands, because she can do it on the computer screen, but has difficulty with the hands. What's going on here? And she can do it. I guess some kids with autism have cerebral palsy too, and it's hard to move their hands. Hard to do anything,
But she could help you take care of Heather?
Yeah, when she was there, yeah, we pretty much just took care of her together. Panbanisha and I were very close, and Panbanisha pretty much all the time was thinking about what I was thinking. Probably. I don't think she really remembers much about it. But you can see her do stuff that's like when she was younger. Sue and I went on a walk, and she was drawing lexicograms in the sand of which way we go next, which we did that with the bonobos, and Kanzi started drawing A-frame and stuff like that in the sand, so we knew where we were going next. Well, she started doing that just...
At what age?
I don't know. She might have been 3 or 4. We were out walking, and she was just drawing in the sand about where to go next, so...
Did you say she learned the lexicograms?
Yeah.
Did you say more
Yeah,
about
now
that?
she's like, well, how did I know all those lexicograms?
Yeah.
But she was talking really fast. If you see her on the keyboard, she's just like talking away. I don't know if you try to edit, she's really talking. Yeah, I'd say she knew all the lexicograms. I don't know if she remembers them now. She doesn't really use them.
It's quite early, though, before she spoke.
She knew at 3 months she could kick over different. I'd line the pictures up and she could kick them over. That's before she could move her hands. So she understood. I know that now they're saying, well, babies understand stuff at 6 months and they'll look this way or that way. So, but with Heather, when she got in her bath, she would kick. She couldn't move her arms yet at that point. So I could communicate with her just I'd line up pictures in front of her and I'd say kick wipies or kick keys or kick such and such, and she would do that. She'd kick it off. And then she had like a half babbling sound that she had made that was a lot like what Kanzi made. You know, half, you could hear half the word in it.
At that age, did she use them with Panbanisha or Kanzi? The
Well,
lexicograms?
Panbanisha showed her banana and a couple of other.
Panbanisha taught her lexicograms?
Yeah. Yeah, Panbanisha, like if she couldn't find. There's one time I did have this on tape. It's a terrible tape because we didn't take much tape. But she couldn't find banana, and Panbanisha showed her where banana was on the keyboard.
How did Panbanisha know what she was trying to find?
How did Panbanisha know? Panbanisha knew what the English were. I mean, if you said banana, she knew what you were talking about.
So you mean there were bananas there, and she?
I don't know if there's bananas there or not. I mean, I know they knew what we were talking about. You just say banana.
Oh.
Any word you say like that,
Uh-huh.
raisins, M&Ms, anything, they understood that.
Uh-huh.
They could, if you said the English word, like if they're having trouble finding a lexigram, then if you said the word in English, they could find
I
it.
see.
So the English enabled them to say the word on the keyboard.
So
They were thinking in English.
And in this particular,
Probably, I would think.
in this particular incident, your daughter was trying to find the lexigram
Banana.
for.
Right.
You were
and
talking about
Panbanisha-
the.
Panbanisha showed her where it was. Showed her where to find banana. Heather also did all the tasks. She did mazes. She did Dwayne's task. She did numbers, which I don't think that ever got published, but up to 10. She could count up to 10. And she had trouble moving the joystick, and we get caught on some of the other numbers, and I was complaining. I was like, this is hard to move at age 2, and she's getting stuck, and that's why she's missing. And then she would flip over like 2s and 6 and 9s, and I think the apes did that too, probably. Like they flip the 2 and the 5s and have a problem. But she finally got to where she could count clear up to 10, and I think Sherman went even further. It's just that this never got published, but everything she'd do, I tried to do the same step with her. And she went through all the mazes, and then we did the mazes over at Georgia State University Child Care Center. Well, Heather went through them at 2. She could do them at 2. And there was a 9-year-old there who couldn't do them, 4th grade level. And teachers told me that the mazes were at 4th grade level. So with the computer, they could go through it, and eventually Panbanisha was able to you could just hand her a printout, and she could draw her way through the maze. Actually draw her way up. So they could do more than we think they could do. It's just getting to it. We have to go in a different direction. And I let Panbanisha carry her on her stomach, right there. And then Heather would stick her hand right in Panbanisha's mouth and look through all her teeth. People would think this was really dangerous, you don't touch the teeth or whatever, but Heather was very curious about the teeth, and she'd look at it real closely, and she'd just get, right in there and look at the mouth and everything. So she can probably, read their expressions pretty well because of that. I mean, people look at them, they don't seem to see their expressions, but when I look at them, I see all kinds of stuff. There's a whole world there. They tell you everything in their face, just like people do to, well, I don't know. Panbanisha she could give you a poker face. You wouldn't know whether she was going to be bad or good, or she might buy you. She could do a good poker face. But some of the others couldn't do quite so much the poker face. So between their voice, I could tell from their voice if they are irritated or sometimes they give mixed messages out to them, They're going to be both good and bad. And she kept track of everything I did. And if I had a list of like 5 or 10 different things that I had to remember, because it would kind of get to be a lot. She'd ask for this or this or that, and I'd say later. But she'd always remember all those 10 different things or whatever. So she would remind me. She'd go back and remind me when she saw that I was forgetting. And I would say we were pretty much, they talk about this joint attention, and I'm like, but Panbanisha always knew what I was thinking. She understood what I was thinking about. She was always trying to think, and if I forgot anything, she always told me what I forgot. And if something wasn't there and somebody put something in a cabinet, when I came in, she'd tell me what was in the cabinet ahead of time. She had theory of mind. She knew. She was like Superwoman, basically, because she could do all these things that I couldn't do. And when we were in Atlanta, and Panbanisha first had Neota, and it was a whole week before she started to have some milk come out. And I had been gone, but I came, the day I came back, I was going with her, and I remember walking out to the group room, and Mary Barron came in. I didn't really realize what was going on at all. I had no idea. And I opened the door, and Panbanisha was in the corner with Neota, and she just, out of the blue, just started to attack Mary. And I put my hand in Panbanisha's mouth so that if she's going to bite anything, she'd have to bite my hand first. So that prevented her from biting Mary. And then I put Mary in the bathroom. I had to leave to go pick up Heather. She's at childcare. And back then, if you didn't get there by 7, they put them in the juvenile delinquent section. I didn't want that to happen. And I'm like, just don't go with Panbanisha till I get back. I told her, don't go back in with her, because she's upset with you, but I don't understand why. And then while I was driving to get Heather, I was like, oh, well, Laura came to the window there while I was in the group room, and she talked to Mary Barron, who's up at the PCK building. They talked over the little walkie-talkies they had about taking Neota away because Panbanisha didn't have any milk yet. So they had actually discussed that over the radio while I was in the group room, and I'd heard it on the radio there, but I hadn't put the pieces of the puzzle together. And I realized, oh, well, that's why Panbanisha is acting so strangely. Because to me, she had been with Mary the week before and acting perfectly well, and doing nothing wrong. And I thought, Panbanisha thinks they're going to take Neota away. That's the problem. So, but Mary Barron did not listen to me. I said, well, if Sue comes down or anybody else, don't you go in with Panbanisha no matter what. I figured that. Sue came down, Dwayne was there, Panbanisha ended up biting Mary Barron on the leg. I don't think it was real bad. I think that's what happened. A lot of times I figure out afterwards, like, what run through my mind what people had said. See, they understood English too. And people didn't take that into account. They went ahead and just said whatever they wanted to say. But yet they understood the English. And then I'd be trying to figure out what was going on. Something had happened, And I'll be, why did that happen? You know, then you start to understand. Well, they understood what was going on. They understood the English. So she didn't. The only time I really saw her, Pisu came in after her bite one time, and she's like, well, I might bite you back. And he left and left her alone. Sometimes he would bite Matata like over and over, and she didn't seem to care. She'd bite him. But Panbanisha controlled without violence the whole group. So, and I liked it that she did that. But I know, like, if a bonobo were coming over to bite, that she'd need to be able to defend herself as well. So, you have to stick up for yourself, right? The bonobos will come over and bite you. And if you're not in with them as much, they might bite you, or if you're gone a lot, they might bite you. But no, I didn't ever get seriously hurt from any of them. People think, well, they think if you put the collar on, maybe I shouldn't say this, that you control them by the collar. You know, to me, it's just like a nice way to be close to somebody because I'm old and I can't move. They can take the collar away from you any second. You can padlock it to you, but you're not going to padlock it to you unless it's like with somebody like Kanzi, you know, is not going to bite you. I mean, somebody else would tear you up, right? So, do you want to be padlocked to them? No. You don't want to be padlocked to them. You know, if you're worried about them just pulling the collar out, unless you trust them. So, you know, Kanzi might go out with sometimes a rose with the collar around and padlock it. Kanzi wouldn't hurt her. She was kind of funny because she would get angry at him, kind of cuss at him, and he started cussing back. He has this sound that sounds like cussing, right? I didn't cuss much, but he's got this whole thing that sounds, you know, you've been cussed out by Kanzi if he's going to cuss you out. But no, they're so strong. It's a completely in your mind that you're controlling them. It's all a mind thing. And Panbanisha was much easier because she would always stay right with me and go everywhere with me, and I didn't have to worry about all that so much. But with Kanzi, he's very independent, probably because he was male. He'd go way up high in a tree, and the only thing I could do was like sit down there for 3 hours and wonder, because I worry about, like, if I left, he's going to come down, he's going to go up another tree, and he can see everywhere, and I won't know where he's at. But he knows where I'm at, so I would have to sit there underneath that same tree till he came back down the tree. He would look around. He was very independent, and he would move around, and at night he liked to go up to, this is in Atlanta, he'd like to go up to see Sherman and Austin, and I would go sit on top of the wire on top of the building there so I could see him from a long ways away, and then he could move wherever he wanted to move, and I could still see him, so I would pretty much just verbally be in charge of him until he was ready to go back inside. And he pretty much visited them every night. He enjoyed visiting Sherman Austin. He had been around Austin when he was younger. So we were pretty close to the common sheds, but they were different. And one time Matata got out and went past all 3 doors. I don't know how she managed that, but and they told me about it, and I thought, well, they're going to shoot her. You know, because she got out before when she was younger, and she'd go up in the trees, and then she'd be gone. Couldn't catch her. She'd just go across through the top of the trees. She was so agile. And I remember looking at her, and I was, you know, somebody's gonna hurt you. And And she didn't go up the tree. She stopped going up the tree and she went back in the building for me, in the common shed building. And I was really glad she did that because I didn't want her shot. At that point, I was kind of like promising her, well, I'll take care of you when you're old and everything. And so it was really sad to me that when she did need my help, that I was not allowed to go in and help her.